In this video, we'll explore some of the most popular and widely used Excel functions. Personally, these are functions that I use on a regular basis as a finance manager, FP&A. And these functions have been a game changer from day one. And I'm pretty sure millions of people around the world, from data analysts to finance folks to all works of life, will benefit from using these functions because of, the multiple ways that you can customize them to fit what you are trying to solve. So the first function that we'll look at will be the if function, and then we'll move on and look at the ifs function, and then we'll further go into VLOOKUP and XLOOKUPs. So without wasting much time, let's look at what the if function is and what it does. So the if function is one of the most popular functions in Excel, and it allows you to make logical comparisons between a value and what you expect. So it's much more fun looking at how it actually works. So to bring up the if function, we type equal if, that is the function, then we press the tab or just click on it. Now it's ready to go. So if you look over here, we have ranking and revenue. And if you look over here, we have companies, top 100 companies that are ranked by their revenue contributions or their revenue generation in the world, right? So now if you look at this, it's saying that big companies is any company that has revenue of 100 billion plus. Mid is between 300 billion to 399 billion. Small is between 299 billion and less. So we want to write a function that says if this column here, if the company's revenue is within a certain range, return the ranking that it belongs to. For example, if Walmart's revenue, which is 600 billion, is within a certain range here, tell me what it is. If it is 400 billion plus, return big. If it is 300 to 399, return mid. And if it is less, 299 and less, return small. So that's like what we want to do, but we want to write a function that is going to generate that automatically for us. So without further ado, let's go into it. So we've typed equal if, and that's the way to activate the function. Now it's asking us to give it a logic. What is a logic? We're trying to feed it something so it reads off of that. So the first thing is, what's the logic? We're trying to see if revenue here is greater than 400. So we have three that we will feed it. The first one is if it's greater than, if this D2, which is revenue, is greater than 400, then what should it give us? It's big. But we have to put it, since this is text, we have to put it in quotation. If not, it will be an error. So what is the other thing that we want to do? There's still more logic. So we'll have to define another if function again. If tab, the same thing. What is the second condition? Over here is greater than 300. We've defined that. What will it name it? It should be mid. What's the other option? The remainder of everything else is small. So if these two conditions are not true, then what should it give us? And what it should give us is small, because the remainder of the whole sample now is only going to be small. So what we can do is we just type everything else is small. So you don't need another if again. You already have two defined, big and mid. Now the final one is the small. So now closing bracket, the logic is to know how to close brackets. Look at how many brackets are open. 1, 2. So how many should you close? 2. So when you close this one, you see it's red. It's telling you just close the first function there and then the second is everything. Close now. Now this is ready to go. We just press enter. So see, it says Muhammad is big, right? And all you need to do now is just hover over here until you see the plus sign and just double click or drag it. In our own case, because we have this here, let's see. So I just remove that space between and then double click, and it's showing me all of these companies. Without doing much, I can literally decide, okay, which are the big companies? So it's over here, over, and then you see the top 6 companies are classified, not the top 5 here are classified as big. Then we have 6 companies that are mid, and the rest are small. So that's one quick way of looking at this data. Now, let's look at the ifs. It's very similar to the if, except now this is more conditions defined. Okay, so instead of always typing if this and then go again if that, like if you look at this function, if it's so long, it becomes very difficult to audit it and to fix certain errors, right? But now, how do we make it cleaner? The ifs is a good way to actually do that. So what the ifs does is, if you were to define it, it's like a function. It checks whether one or more conditions are met and returns a value corresponding to the first true condition. So it's like you're taking the multiple statements in the if function and you're putting it into an if function. So it's a much more streamlined and a better way of writing multiple nested if statements. So let me show you how it works, and I'll write the same thing, but with the ifs that we have done here, right? So same thing, 2 ways of activating a function in Excel, in case you've not noticed it. It's either you use the equals or you use the plus. Otherwise, Excel won't know what you're trying to do. It's like, it's the key thing that tells Excel, I'm about to write a formula, I'm about to write a function, I want you to do something. If you do not put equal or plus, then it will not do it. Literally, it will just be like any other regular thing. So you type equal, and then now ifs. Now, instead of if you type that, you see there's an if here and there's an ifs. It's the second one, this one here, the last one on that. So what's the logic? The logic is the same. We're trying to read whether revenue is actually greater than 400 that we have over there, and we want it to return big. So here we go with that text. You got to put those quotations, or otherwise it will not read it. In this case now, you don't have to do it all over again. You literally will just have D2, the same thing, and greater than 300. What should it give you? It should give you, in quotation here, mid, and then again the same D2, anything less than or equal to 300. I want it to give me quotation small, and then close that. So now look at this with the first one. The first one we had to set if it is less, if it's greater than 400, big. If this one again is greater than 300, mid. And then if this is less than or equal to again. So we had a bunch of if statements, nested ifs. In this case, we've streamlined it. We're just saying ifs, then you define the first condition for that logic there, and then you go again the second logic, and then you test another logic, but you don't have to always type the if. So this is a cleaner way of writing an if statement when you have multiple conditions that you're trying to stream through and return something. So we press that. So now let's autofill it. So it returns the same thing as the first one, except that if you wanted to read this, it's way easier and cleaner. So ifs is like a cleaner way of writing a nested ifs. So now that that is clear, now let's look at another cool function, actually two of them, VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP. So with VLOOKUPs and XLOOKUP, it's like, think about it like you have a whole data set, millions of rows and columns of data, but you're trying to pull a specific account or a specific information about somebody's name or a specific GL and what's recorded under it. So VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP will save you a ton of time. Now let's start with VLOOKUP. Now you could use VLOOKUP function to find things in a table or arrange by row. And let's look at how it works. And like the name says, it's looking up something. So the VLOOKUP is written like this. We have VLOOKUP. What do you want to look up? So technically what we want to look up is Walmart, like that company there. And then we want to make sure, and I'll show you something here about referencing in a minute, but I want to write the formula first. So what is the lookup array that we want to, that contains Walmart? So we want to look up this information here. Let's say we want to look it up here. We select all the area, and the array is technically all the area where the information that you're looking for is housed at. I want to lock that up like that. And then what do I want to do next? It's asking me in this information, where is the column index of what you want to pull once we find Walmart? And that is, I want the revenue here. So I will put column index 2. So this is 1, 2, right? And then now I ask you true or false. True is, hey, look for Walmart, find whatever is closest match to it in terms of revenue and pull it, or look for exactly Walmart and find the exact revenue. So you want to go with the false to find the exact match and just double click on it or just press the tab key. Now we can just, so it went in here, looked for Walmart, and then pulled what the Walmart revenue is. If you had put, for example, 3 here, you go here, look for Walmart and pull what Walmart stock price is, because 1, 2, 3 is the price. So let's take it back to 2. So that's how that index is determined. So now, the other thing I want to show you in writing functions, and this is key, this is absolutely powerful. It will save you time, increase your efficiency, and you'll be able to write formulas better. How do you reference something? And when I say referencing, I mean, when you actually select a certain range, as you pull down, like if I pull this down, if I did not, let me remove this. The first answer is correct. But if I drag it down, it starts to move. See, the range just went down, the array, and then it keeps going down. So chances that I will start pulling the wrong thing, very high. So, you know, you might be lucky, some will be correct, but others won't be, because once this goes down here, now the first 4 companies here are not being picked. So technically, like, Excel could literally be giving you just some random information. And if I pull this here, see, it starts saying not applicable, and like it starts getting confusing. What is happening? If this ever happened to you, this is the reason why it is happening. And I'm about to walk you through a very good and quick example here. So look at this here, right here. It's saying the area that you're looking for, that you should look at, the area of data that you should look for is C2 to E101. Now this shouldn't change, because that is the total area that Excel will keep looking for these companies, right? Now, Walmart is like in a column, and you don't want this formula to keep going into various rows. So you have to make sure that the column stays the same. And to reference a column, by default, Excel gives you this, J2. So what do? To lock a column, you have to bring the $ in front of the letter. If you want to lock a row, you have to put the $ in front of the number. So right now, I want to do that. If you want to lock something so it doesn't move at all, absolute reference, you'll have to put $ in front of it, in front of the letter and the number. So in our own case, we want the $ value to be in front of the letter so that column will be locked. It won't change. Then here, absolute. So we click that now. Now let's drag down. So look at that. This stayed the same, and it keeps looking for information and then just pulling it. If we wanted to do anything and that we wanted to drag it to the next thing, like, it literally will just be easier, assuming that we wanted the price. Let's say this is going to be our lookup. Now is just going to be price, and this is now let's just move over this here. And that stays the same even if I move it, but I just want to change this column index here to 3. So now it just pulls the price. Everything else is the same. Drag it, it starts just giving me the prices. So basically, like, that's how easy it is to just pull information. Walmart revenue is 600 billion, 141.71 stock price. So that's how you use the VLOOKUP. Now let's look at XLOOKUP. Now, XLOOKUP uses a lookup array and returns an array. So one of the key things you'll realize is that VLOOKUP is reading and using an index. So it's having this, okay, it's saying, get this, look for Walmart, that is my lookup value, in this array. And then in the second number here is an index, a column index, right? XLOOKUP doesn't do that. So XLOOKUP is pretty much straightforward. Let's go. So let's look at how XLOOKUP works. You type the equal or plus, whichever one you like. I like to use plus when I'm writing my functions. So XLOOKUP. How does XLOOKUP work? So it says lookup value. So same thing as what we did before. Our referencing, like we said, we want to lock the column, right? And then our lookup array. So we are going to look up here. That's the whole thing. Make it easy. And you don't want that to start moving around. So you want to reference it. F4 is what actually brings those $ values on your keyboard. Just press that F4 key. And if you want to toggle around, just keep pressing it. It will keep changing. Now, return array. It looks up this array, and then what should it return? We want it to return revenue. So we click here. So we don't want that to keep moving, because what I did here is I just captured the whole column, which is something that you can always do as long as Walmart is only here once. So absolute reference again. Now, when you reference something so it doesn't move at all, it's an absolute reference. Now, when you start referencing rows and columns only, that is a relative reference. So in this case, we're saying the columns are not going to move at all. This is like an absolute reference. No column, no rows is going to move. So then I'll just press enter. That's it for the XLOOKUP, and all I need to do is just drag it down. So you see, I have the same thing here as here, but using different functions. This one, I like it because it's like pretty quick, and I don't have to think about what column am I pulling at. You just need to define your array, and then the next thing you need to define is what exactly do I want it to pull, like the array. And then if it finds the value in this array, then it returns the array that you pick, which is revenue. So if I wanted to change this to now be price, I'll just create another one like I did in the other one. Just for the exercise, let's just say price there, and let's just say this is XLOOKUP, and we click the tab just to activate it right there. So the lookup value is Walmart, and the referencing for exercise, we just want to make sure the column doesn't change. Click comma, and then the next thing, Excel always gives you what it's looking for. It says lookup array. Which array has the information you're looking for? We're looking for Walmart. Where does Walmart show up? Here. So we just click on top of that column there. It just pulls the whole thing. Another way to do it is to decide to just select the area, but this is like slower, and it still does the trick, but let's use it. So we want to lock this area, right? And then comma, what area do we want it to return? We want it to be the price this time around. So the price is here. Let's absolute reference it. Absolute reference because we don't want it to start moving into other columns, right? And then what do we need to do next? It's done. So enter. And then hover over here until you see the plus sign and then double click. Now that doesn't exist, so we don't need it. So you look over here, the same thing, different functions, we have the same price, so the same information. So VLOOKUP and XLOOKUP can be used interchangeably. The only difference is that one is looking for a certain value and reading a column index, and then it's looking at this value, looking at where it is at the table array, and it's pulling using a column index. So you have to tell it what column index it is at. Whereas the other one is looking using an array, and it's actually returning using an array again. So you do not have to tell it what column index your data is. You just need to select the array where the return data is supposed to be found at. So that is your quick tutorial on how to use the if function, ifs functions, VLOOKUP, and XLOOKUPs. So now you know these very powerful functions, and I hope you have fun analyzing your data, setting conditions, and retrieving information, and summarizing data using ifs, VLOOKUP, and XLOOKUPs. Thank you.